What is up, beautiful strangers?
Gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
You're gorgeous.
You're radiant.
Radiant.
You are.
Yeah.
You are. I totally forgot what I was going to say now.
We're starting on a positive note.
Yeah. Welcome to the Strange Sessions. As always, I am Kurt, and I am joined by my moist co-host, Krista.
Why am I moist?
Because it's humid out.
Oh, that's gross. You started on a high note.
And then ended.
And then just plunged right into darkness.
The moist. Some people just hate that word. Moist.
I do. It's gross.
I don't. It is not gross.
I don't know. It's weird.
It doesn't bother me. Anyway, where are we going here with this?
Hi.
Hi. Complain about the weather.
Welcome to spooky season.
It is spooky. It doesn't feel like
no,
spooky
it doesn't.
season because it's hot outside.
Like 80s and humid.
It's
here.
been like weirdly humid. Like the mornings are like cold, like 50s, but
Global
still
warming.
humid. And
Climate change.
And it stinks.
Yeah, it does stink.
And then my rooms are hot at school, and I'm just miserable.
It blows my mind that schools don't have air conditioning.
No. And
like
students
why?
were pointing out that I was like sweating through my shirt yesterday because I was chasing one of the students around the building all day.
Maybe you should stop chasing students around the building.
That's part of my job.
Oh,
That's
like you
part of-
literally had to chase him around the building?
No, he just needed a timeout, and he was it was like he had 5 energy drinks, but he didn't. And it's so everywhere we went, he would sit for 1 second, then he'd be running around looking in doorways, and he's like, I want to see what's on the 3rd floor. I want to see what's in the basement.
Oh my gosh.
So I was up all around. I'm losing weight.
Kurt's
though.
getting his
I'm
steps.
losing weight like crazy. But anyway, shout outs to our newest strangers.
Real quick, if you don't want to sit through this,
before she
because
forgets.
we never remember to tell you this, if you're new to the show, you don't want to sit through this titillating 20, as we like to call it, please check the show notes. Kurt will post when the actual topic starts. Okay, go.
Yes, he will. I want to give shout outs to we've only had 2 strangers join since the last episode. And those are Morgan Howard Jolly and Diana Lauber. I think it's Lauber. But that being said, I have a bunch of shout outs to do for my students.
Okay.
Because they found out about the podcast, and a lot of them do listen to it. And
they're just not cool enough to join the Facebook group?
they're not on Facebook yet.
Oh.
Yeah, because they're all like 11 years
Oh,
old.
okay, good.
So,
Stay off
yeah.
Facebook.
Don't even go on Facebook.
Don't
It
even
is
bother with
it's
social media.
Seriously,
It's
like
a
if
cesspool of
and then the stuff
negativity.
came out this week about like the whistleblower with
Yeah.
how bad Facebook really is.
Especially for kids.
Yeah, like if I was not involved with a podcast, I probably wouldn't even use it.
I 100% wouldn't be on Facebook.
But if I forgot your name and you're listening to this episode, tell me at school, and I will give you a shout out in a future episode. Because I meant to jot all these names down last night, and you know how that goes. So I was writing them into my notes app on my iPhone while I was driving down the highway in the fog on the way here today.
Risking his life. For
shout-outs. For my students, but I love my students. So I want to give shout-outs to my morning students, Kiana, Olivia, Eliza, and Lucy. These are all girls.
Nice.
By the way. Like, they just, like, the boys are... The girls are just better. They're smarter.
Yes, we are better and smarter. Thank you.
But yes, those are my morning students, Kiana, Olivia, Eliza, and Lucy. And a shout out to my afternoon students, my hallway group, Ayla, Juana, Rihanna, and Lorraine. And my other 2 that I think might listen, Emily and Bianca.
They all have the coolest names.
They're all just adorable. Like, I love these girls. And this week was bad. Like, just... Like I tell them this all the time, but they keep me coming back to this. Like if it wasn't for them and, you know, like the connection we have and how much I like care about them and how much they care about me, I think I would probably just up and quit.
I'm so like blown away by the letters that they give you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like I share some of the letters that I get from students about how much I've helped them and stuff. And it literally makes me like, I'm already having a bad day. And then I go to my desk and there's one there and it just like makes me all teary. So it is a roller coaster.
I don't get notes like that at work.
No,
saying. Probably be a little weird
I'll put
if
it
I
on your
did.
desk there.
Thank you.
No problem. Housekeeping.
I don't know.
Got some feedback about the EVP episode. People seem to really like the EVPs.
And they were really freaked out by the last one.
Yes. Well, some people heard that before because it was in an episode we've done in the past. But some people have not heard that, and they're like, nope.
Yeah.
A lot of people like the breathing on the stairway one. I got some messages from people. So I'm glad you guys like that.
I'm partial to them all.
Yeah, I love them all because we were there for all of them. Mm-hmm. And thank you again for everybody that's subscribing on Coffee.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Hope you guys
we
are
have
liking...
a monthly income now, and that
we
blows
do,
me away.
which is weird. I'm hoping you guys are liking the episodes, the side sessions. Dash loved this last one. He messaged me about the dice living. Mm-hmm. If you didn't hear the episode, it's about a book that came out in the 70s called The Dice Man, about a professor or a psychologist that decides he's going to use a 6-sided dice to determine what he does every time he has a decision to make. And there's people that actually live like this. So the episode was about dice living, and it kind of could have been on the Strange Sessions because it's a little like randonauting, where it's using like synchronicity or chance to take you out of your routine that you would normally do. But the universe still hasn't brought me a dice. Dash said, "What if a stranger sent you a dice? Would that be the?" And I'm like, "No, because you guys know." You know, like, but the boy, like, outside school with the throwing the dice up and down in his hand when he was standing by me was kind of close. Yeah. So once I get a dice, I'm going to look into this whole dice living thing and use it to make some decisions. So glad you guys are liking the side sessions.
Have you been to any thrift stores?
No, not lately. I'm looking for dice from a specific game from the 1970s.
Wow.
Because I remember having this game when I was a kid in the 70s, and I remember it had red... Oh, no, the dice were multicolored. Like, 1 was green, 2 was blue. It was the game Kismet. But I remember having that as a kid, so I kind of want one of those dice.
Well, that might be a tough one.
Yeah, that's asking the universe for a lot.
So very specific.
Yeah. Do we have any other housekeeping that we have to do?
No, but I promise I remember to turn on the video for the taste test today.
Okay, sorry that we forgot it last time.
We didn't have any bonus content at all last week, so I felt kind of bad about that. But we were kind of crunched for time, or not last week, the week before. We were crunched for time. You weren't even editing the episode.
No, no, because we recorded on Sunday, but then we went for an amazing meal right after. So good. You don't have any housekeeping?
Nope, I don't think so. Probably, but no.
Okay.
As usual.
I can't think of anything. We have a package from my dear cousin Shayna.
Sweet.
I have no idea what's in there. It could be a taste test. It could be a something for our hutch or cabinet. I am very tired today, listeners, so bear with me. I'm very tired, and I've been having like allergies.
I think it is a taste test. It's Bigfoot poop. Chocolate nut toffee. Oh,
I see.
I'm pretty excited about
poop.
that. Yeah, Bigfoot poop. Oh, here's a card.
Oh, I cannot eat it.
Why? What kind
Hazelnuts.
of nuts? Dang.
That is for Krista.
So are you going to take a different taste test?
Yes.
Oh, look at this. That's a good one.
That is awesome.
It's a Bigfoot sticker.
That is so cool.
What does that say? Multnomah Falls, Oregon. And then we got a Don't Talk to Strangers Safety Education, and it's an alien. Oh my gosh, these are so
Oh my
cute.
gosh, that is awesome.
More stuff for the whiteboard.
So this is a card from my cousin Shayna. Dear Kurt and Krista, congratulations on your 100th podcast. I meant to send something in for it, but was traveling through Oregon and Washington this weekend. Speaking of which, I made my BFF Courtney listen to the Bermuda Triangle and the Side Sessions previews episode, and you now have a new Strangers fan. Yay! Thank you so much, Courtney. Kurt, I'm so proud of you. Oh, your passion has turned into this amazing service and community for all who love strange things. Krista, you're a member of our family now, too.
Aww.
All of Kurt's cousins and their children listen to the podcast. The treat is for you. It has nuts. Sorry, Kurt. And more decor for the cellar to Stay Strange, Shayna, Kurt's cousin.
Oh,
love you, Shayna.
I love it.
All of my cousins and their kids that listen to it. I love you guys,
That's
and I
so
never
amazing.
see you. I don't see you enough. You know, we used to get together for like holiday meals when my grandmother was still alive,
sure.
but then since she passed away, we just don't anymore. Mm-hmm. So I gotta see them more. So I love you guys, and I miss you, and hopefully I can see you sometime soon. So thank you so much, Shayna. Thank you for roping in a new stranger.
Yes. And welcoming me to your family. I'm honored.
And you can try the Bigfoot poop.
Yeah. So why don't you, I'm going to get the camera set up.
Okay.
Why don't you search for a taste test for you to try?
I'm just going to reach into the Norwegian box this time because we haven't had a Norwegian one, I think, since
It's been a while.
Since the Thunder Salt incident. Mm-hmm. Okay. I see the light going. I see the light going.
All All right,
guys.
I'm going to open this
Bigfoot poop.
first, the Bigfoot poop, which I am ridiculously excited about because I love chocolate. I love toffee.
Do you like hazelnuts?
I love hazelnuts.
I cannot eat them.
Whoa. That was crazy.
Oh, it's a Bigfoot.
Oh my God. They're shaped in like the little, they're like little.
Bigfoot scat.
Yeah. Or they almost look like, that looks like a print.
Yeah, it
Like
does.
a cast. Okay.
I doubt real Bigfoot poop is as good as these are going to
I
be.
very much agree with you on that. Taking a picture of the Bigfoot scat. Okay.
I did tell my students, if you want to listen to a scary episode, listen to our listeners or our personal experience stories.
Oh,
but
yeah.
now I kind of regret that because I don't want them to be freaked out by that.
That'll keep them up at night.
Yes, it will.
Okay, ready? This is weird, just me doing it by myself. Uh-oh, she said the ones that were taped together have nuts in them.
I don't think these well, look.
Okay. Ready?
Ready.
Oh my God. I wish you could eat this. This is so good.
That sounds good.
This is dangerous. I'm having a second one. Oh my God. This is from Oregon?
Yes.
I mean, where else would you find Bigfoot poop? One more.
I think the ones she put
Wow.
pink, I think the ones she put warnings on have nuts. I think these are just taped together to keep them together.
I hope so.
We'll find out.
Those are amazing.
Out of 10?
100.
Wow.
I love chocolate
Krista
covered
likes
toffee.
the Bigfoot poops.
Yeah, they're almost like, they remind me of a Heath bar.
This one I'm not so sure about. We're going to see.
Okay, better you than me. Do I have to taste it too?
Yeah, yeah, there's two of
Dang it.
them.
I swear she said the ones taped together had nuts.
But I just don't think it does.
That was so
I feel
good.
like I would be able to see it. So what these are, it's called Psst Kick. Says on the back, sea salt licorice.
Oh boy.
That's why I don't think that would have nuts in it. Like, there's nothing about nuts.
Oh jeez.
I think
just got caught on my
I
thing.
think these are probably taped together to keep them together so we could both try one.
I hope so. I can't read any of the ingredients.
Well, I can see glucose is sugar. Milk sugar, I'm guessing, is milk chocolate. Cocosol. I don't see anything that looks like a nut name.
I guess why would there be nuts in here?
Yeah. I'm willing to try it.
Okay.
I like sea salt. I don't like licorice.
Well, let me take a picture.
Oof. That
What,
is
did you get a
black.
whiff or something?
No,
Oh,
but
man,
it is
so it's gonna be
black.
like black licorice.
Okay, but it doesn't.
Okay.
Ew. It's like.
Ew, that's bodes well for. Oh wow, it's black. Okay, let me get a picture of that. Wow,
I like sea salt.
I love sea salt.
You ready?
Oh God.
Ready?
Okay.
Oh. Okay. I actually like this.
I kind of do too.
Wow.
This is weird because it's black licorice. It really tastes like black licorice.
I hate black licorice.
The sea salt is what makes it good.
This is excellent. I really like this.
It's not like, you know, when I think of Good and Plenty's, it's a totally, those are black licorice,
And it's
right?
not like a Charleston chew where it's chewy. Like you could chew, but it's like,
I thought we were going to struggle to eat this. And
I
it's
do
actually
too.
really soft.
and oh my God.
They're actually really salty.
I never
in a
thought,
good way.
never thought I would say this about a black licorice product, but I'm giving this a 10 out of 10. I love this.
It is delicious.
It's like not the gross black licorice. It's almost like the good black licorice flavor.
Which I've never had. I didn't know that existed.
Oh,
That's really good.
10 out of 10. It has just the right amount of salt.
Uh-huh.
Not like the Dunder salt.
Ugh.
Okay, I love this. This is totally a 10 out of 10.
And your throat's not closing up or anything?
We'll see. Oh my God. I cannot believe how much I like.
That is really
How
amazing.
much I like something black licorice flavored.
I know. I'm giving it a 10 too. Wow.
I want more.
I'm shocked.
If I could get those here, I would eat those like all the time for a snack. Wow. I'm blown away. I like something black licorice.
That was amazing. It just seems like really high quality.
Yeah,
you know what
and
I mean?
it's called Psst Kick, which is awesome. Yum.
Yeah, that was good. 2 winners in a row. That almost never happens.
No, I was sure being black licorice that was going to be awful.
Yes.
So apparently
was not.
Norwegians can do black licorice right.
Wow.
Thunder
sure
salts
can.
is just a...
I mean, that was amazing. I'm impressed with their black licorice.
Never thought I would say that.
No. Me either.
Did you give it a 10? Was
I
it
gave
all
it a
10s
10.
today?
We did.
Everything was a 10.
Well, I gave the chocolate 100, but
Are you recording?
I am recording.
Ooh,
I
my
never
fingers,
stopped.
fingers are sticky.
Whew. All right. I got to get my light ready so I can actually see what I'm doing. Does that bother you, though?
No. Let me know when you're
As
ready.
you're making this face. Does that bother you?
Let me know when you're ready to go.
I'm ready.
I just totally blanked on what I was going to
say,
do.
are you ready?
I can't see anything. I got the light.
Oh, my God.
We need better light. Drama queen. We need better light down here.
I would love to get some floor lamps that direct the light up instead of at us.
All I have for housekeeping is EVP episode, and thanks again for coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I hope you guys are liking the side sessions. The one we're recording right after this wasn't even actually going to be the topic. I started the other topic, but then it's weird that this topic that we're doing today came up 2 days in a row, 3 different times randomly. And it's like,
Synchronicity.
It's kind of a synchronicity, so I went with it. I don't think it's terribly exciting, but it's something really interesting to me, and it's something that I think about a lot.
I think, though, with you, even if it's not an exciting topic, the way you put it together
is exciting.
It's interesting, yeah.
Today's is just kind of it's like kind of thrown together, but it's like basically 2 kind of different topics, but they're ones that I find like really interesting and almost...
And they're related somehow?
Yeah, like almost something I want to do. But we'll get into that when we do today's...
We'll get to that.
We'll get to... Oh, the name to put it under for this one is Mulligan.
Oh, for the side session?
Mulligan or Mulligan stew.
Ooh, Mulligan stew.
Yep.
I went to a private Catholic school for the first 6 years, like 1st through 6th grade, and Mulligan stew was one of my favorite things that they made.
I've never had Mulligan stew.
It was like a meat-based stew with gravy that they would put over mashed potatoes.
Yum.
Amazing.
But that's what this one's name is for
the best food.
For your flash drive is Mulligan stew.
Okay.
So today is a mini mystery episode, and mine I don't think is going to be super long.
Okay.
And mine is it's we'll get into that when I do mine. I'll curt myself right off the bat. I'll get into that when I do mine.
Mine is 6 pages, and then I'm going to reference a book a little bit, but
I'm excited. I'm excited to hear
spaced.
about yours because okay, what is yours about?
Should I just start?
Sure.
Okay.
Because I did not tag along on this.
No.
Because it was
too late.
It was too like if it was at 6 o'clock at night, that would have been too late for me. But it was from like 11 p.m. till 2 a.m., right?
It was tough. Okay, ready?
I am ready. I'm on the edge of my seat.
All right.
My non-broken
seat.
seat.
Well, be careful because the last chair
we
broke.
I moved to a different chair for our taste test, and the chair broke when I sat down in it. So
it's not you; it's the chair. Those chairs are kind of rickety. We need
to lose a few pounds too.
Well, we want to use. Kurt and I were just saying that we want to use some of the money we're getting from our supporters to get actual chairs. Office chairs down here.
Yeah, so when we have somebody come for the first time to be a guest, they don't fall
on the floor. Welcome to our rinky-dink studio. You need to sign a waiver before you can
just
come
in
down
case you get injured.
Okay. So my mini mystery topic is a brief history, and I say brief because there's not just a ton of information out there.
I didn't think there was going to be.
No, and even some of the claims about the place aren't super verifiable.
Yeah. Oh, I get into that with my topic too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it's a brief history of the Sheboygan County Comprehensive Health Care Center. And my tour / investigation of the location. I got all of my information from Wikipedia, an article called, Let Me Take a Breath, From a Devastating Fire to Holding German World War II Prisoners of War, the Sheboygan County Asylum Facilities Hold a Rich History. And I stumbled through the whole thing. But dude, edit. That is like the longest article title I've ever seen in my life.
Is there did they house prisoners of war there?
Mm-hmm. We'll get to that,
Ooh,
Kurt.
I got Krista.
WisconsinFrights.com, and also the book that I received on the tour called Haunted Expeditions in the Midwest.
It's mostly known as the Sheboygan. Is it mostly known just as the Sheboygan Asylum or the
We'll get to
Sheboygan
that.
Insane Asylum? God,
We'll
I'm
get
just
to
going to
that.
shut up and drink my coffee.
What was I going to say?
I interrupted you.
Oh, I used Wikipedia for most of it because it was a nice consolidation of all the same information that was in the other articles and websites, except the book had additional stuff. So now you might be a bit confused, huh?
I am.
Everyone likes to
Constantly.
call it the Sheboygan County Asylum, but it's not, and it never was. And this is clearly and very easily discoverable online with a simple search.
So it was never actually an asylum?
It was never called the Sheboygan County Asylum. That was a
okay.
completely different place located in the city of
Oh,
Sheboygan.
okay. I did not know that.
So I'm going to get into all that
Okay.
stuff. So I found several articles that talk about this. So and they even talk about how confused everybody is about it. But saying I investigated the haunted Sheboygan County Comprehensive Healthcare Center doesn't have the same ring as I investigated the asylum.
Yeah.
So people tend to go with the asylum,
It's
I think.
a little more dramatic.
A little bit. So I'm going to talk about both just to make it clear. The asylum, which was originally located in Winooski, which I had to Google, it was a hamlet in the town of Linden, which is like west of Sheboygan. It opened its doors in 1876 and was home to what the article termed the chronically insane. Some of the terms that are used in these kind of bother me, but I just kind of went with it because I'm using their research. These patients had previously been housed in either the state hospital or the jail. Just 2 years later, on February 19th, 1878, a fire that destroyed the building also claimed the lives of 4 of the 21 patients living there. A newly built replacement opened its doors in June of 1882 and was located between Superior and Erie Avenues in the city of Sheboygan, which is my old neighborhood where my first house was, but west of there, which was originally called the County Hospital, later became known as the Asylum, which also served as a poorhouse. The larger building eventually held 90 patients. Another fire in December of 1892 claimed the life of the night watchman who discovered it. By 1911, additions to the building and expansions to the land eventually saw the asylum occupying 309 acres, although another article said 80 acres, and that's a huge discrepancy. But it would eventually house 225 residents. All the articles had that same number. The facility closed its doors in 1940 and was demolished in 1960.
Oh, so it's not even there anymore?
Nope. The new site now houses, it's where Aurora Health Center and Pick and Save are located.
I wonder if they ever have like activity.
I've never, and I say in here,
yeah,
I've never heard of anything about
but
those
being on
locations.
the grounds of an old insane asylum.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I've never heard of it.
Why do we think insane asylums are so haunted? What makes that any?
I don't know if it's the
idea of it. I like your shirt.
Oh, thank you. I think it depends on the location and the history. I think if it was a place where they didn't have the best practices and they were kind of barbaric and treated the patients like prisoners,
which was probably a lot of those places back in the day.
I think that they hold a lot of anguish and negative energy, and a lot of people probably died in those places because they had such poor care.
Yeah.
So I think that probably lends to that.
Yep.
I didn't hear anything about. From everything I've heard about the Sheboygan County Asylum, the one in Sheboygan, it was a good institution. Like, it wasn't one of those places.
Yeah.
And actually, even what we're going to get to, I didn't hear anything bad about that either. There's no information or rumors about people being mistreated there.
Okay.
Okay, now on to the Sheboygan County Comprehensive Healthcare Center. So this is a site you and I are familiar with and have driven past countless times on our way to and from the Old School Media Studio to record. It's located at North 3773 Garden Parkway in what is technically Sheboygan Falls, but it's really just out in the middle of
I was just going to say, it is literally
it's
out
just
in the middle of nowhere.
surrounded by cornfields.
Yep.
This one was built in 1940, so pretty much right after the other facility closed.
Well, it's funny, too, because Corey and I would drive past there to do that when Corey would be on the podcast, and we'd be like, what is this place?
Yeah.
And then Corey looked it up one day, and he's like, that's the old asylum, like the old Sheboygan Asylum.
Mm-hmm. So, like I said, it was built in 1940. It was a nursing home that also housed mentally ill patients and people with developmental disabilities. During World War II, it was requisitioned by the U.S. military as Camp Sheboygan and was used to house German and Italian prisoners of war between 1944 and 45. In 1969, it became an acute care facility for the mentally ill and also served as an alcohol and drug rehabilitation center until 1975. In 1978, it was converted into a residential center for people with developmental disabilities and chronic illnesses. But beginning in 1988, there was like a new law or something, not a law, but it was something that basically phased out these types of residential care facilities in Wisconsin, and it closed its door finally in 2002. The site is now privately owned, and the gentleman who owns it has teamed up with a local paranormal investigation group, the Fox Valley Ghost Hunters, who he allows to conduct regular paid tours of the facility.
Katie, who was originally in our group, that when we did JFK
Was she
Prep,
part of their?
I think so. I think
Fox
Katie
Valley
was.
piece
Yes, I
rings a
think
bell.
Katie was with them.
Mm-hmm.
Because Katie was originally in when we were
That's
East
what I
Central
thought.
Wisconsin Paranormal Investigations. Katie was in with us, and then we all kind of went our separate ways, and I think she was with them.
And I didn't.
But then they moved, I think, to
recognize
California or
anyone.
Arizona
Oh, okay, I was
somewhere.
gonna say.
Yeah. Yep.
Because they introduced everyone, and there was no Katie in the group.
Yeah.
I did think of that though.
Did you roll your eyes and were you like, Psh, I'm in a ghost hunting group? You don't impress me.
It was funny. We'll get to that. Not really. I mean, we'll sort of get to that. What was I going to say? Okay, I get to that. I just curded myself. So now about the tour. So Jim and I did the tour with the Zahn family. So Mark,
Ooh.
Rhonda, Brittany, and Devin, and Brittany's boyfriend Justin was there.
Who went in my place because I was supposed
Yep.
to go, but
He was their backup plan, I guess.
I wussed out.
So we went on August 20th from 11 p.m. until 2 a.m. So technically, since my birthday was the 21st, it was sort of a birthday present to myself.
Yay.
Kind of a fun way to ring in turning 45.
Wow.
It was actually a really foggy night. It was so foggy that we accidentally drove past it because
I can believe that because you can't. It's
bad.
set back from the
it's set
road.
really far back, and there's no landmarks leading up to it. It's literally cornfields and other, farmland. So we ended up driving. We didn't see it until we were right on top of it. And we had to turn around, and they were following us, so they had to turn around. It was kind of funny. But the fog kind of set the stage in a nice way, too. I will also mention that it was oppressively hot and humid that night.
I remember that.
Especially inside and once you got up to the upper floors. In fact, someone actually, when we got up to the third floor, a woman had to be escorted back down to the lobby because she got overheated and lightheaded. She was not possessed. It was just too hot. So when we arrived, we all signed a waiver. We got a free book here, which I'm going to reference in a little bit. We were split into two groups before the tour/investigation started. I'm using air quotes. I'm going to use both of those terms very loosely because it was a tour in the sense that you were being led throughout the building and being told a very tiny bit about the history. It was more about experiences the paranormal investigators have had.
Which is good because
Yeah.
that's setting the scene for the people that are there for the tour.
Totally. But they
Yeah.
even say if you want to know the history of the building, go online.
Yeah.
We don't do that here.
Yeah.
And I use the term investigation loosely because while there were EVP sessions, various investigation equipment like Rem Pods and spirit boxes being used, not having any control over the environment, the people who were there were like 20 people in our group.
Yeah. That's like when we did the Mansfield Reformatory,
Oh, right.
the prison in Ohio. It wasn't just Barry, Matt, and I.
Right.
It was
a
100
whole bunch
people.
of people.
Yeah.
Right. So we had no control over the equipment. Like we wouldn't during our own investigation. So it was really hard to rely on or trust anything that anyone was experiencing or what the equipment was doing. So for me, it was more of just an opportunity to finally see the inside of the place that we've been passing for so long and see the areas that were investigated on Destination Fear in 2020, which is a show that I like, which was really cool to see a show like that
Yeah.
in Sheboygan.
Yeah.
It was kind of crazy. So we and I went through this timeline with Jim yesterday to make sure I had the order of where we went correctly, and he agreed. So
What did he think of it?
I'll
or are you going to
get
get
to
to... Wait, I'll just shut up. I'll go upstairs and play with Lucy.
I love that he was willing to go. He
Yeah,
was
oh, yeah,
curious, you know. He's never participated in any of the paranormal stuff I've ever done over the years,
No.
except be on this podcast. So
Yeah.
it was really cool to have him be there to experience it, even on like sort of a introductory level, I guess you could say. So we started in the morgue in the basement, which was really tiny. We were only there for like 10 minutes, just long enough to take pictures, have a look around. And then on that same floor in the basement, so underground basically, but there were still windows. So like the ground was sort of like here, like, you know, you could still see out windows.
Mm-hmm.
We went to what they described as like a day room for kids. There was even a column that had height markers with kids' names on it. So that's where the kids would like go and play. There were drawings on the walls and things like that. It was a really big room. And the adjacent room was a chapel, or a room they used as a chapel. And that's where we did our first like quote unquote investigation. They were using digital recorders. They would take these cat toys, the kinds that light up when you move them. Because apparently they think there's the spirit of a child down there that plays with these toys. I think they might have had the motion music box down there too, but it didn't do anything. The Rem Pod did go off several times.
What is a Rem Pod?
So the Rem Pod is EMF, right? Isn't that an EMF?
I don't know.
Well, it's a circular pod.
Okay, I've seen pictures of it. Does it?
And anytime anything comes near it, it lights up. But I think it detects EFM. Am I saying EMF? Jeez,
EMF.
I keep saying EFM. That's because we have a system at work called EFM, Employee File Management. That's not what it is.
That's not what it is. Oh,
EMF,
it looks like that.
Yes. So they detect, some, I don't know if they all, but they detect EMF and also temperature changes. So one light will detect if there's any kind of frequencies around it, something gets close to it, and the other will detect temperature changes.
Yeah, it emits a low EM field and will alert with both LED lights and a tone of any possible spirit activity around it, since it reacts to energy changes in its proximity. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I'd love to try a lot of the equipment that I've seen on these shows that we've just never invested in. Of course, it's been a really long time since we investigated. So that did go off a few times. It happened to be when they were talking about this priest who there are rumors of abuse surrounding the priest. But there were also a ton of people standing around it. I mean, we're talking about 20 people standing around, shifting around. It was hot. Everybody was uncomfortable. So I don't always trust the responses we're getting.
If it was there by itself with a camera on it and it went off for no reason, that would be...
Or in response to questions.
Yeah.
Which it did, but still there were just so many people standing around it. I will say that out of everywhere we visited in the building, that room had a very heavy sort of like oppressive feeling to it. Like that room did not have a good, and many people were saying that. I remember Zan saying that room felt very heavy.
So I keep interrupting you, but
it's okay.
That's how we felt when we did the Mansfield prison tour.
Which you would imagine a prison would feel that way.
But when we were up in, it didn't really feel that way, except when we were up in the top building, which was the tuberculosis ward. That was where it felt oppressive.
Yeah.
And it's hard to describe that feeling unless you actually experience it, but it just felt heavy and like we didn't want to be in there and felt uncomfortable in there.
And it also felt enclosed, even though this room was a pretty decent sized room. It was in the basement, so it was probably one of the cooler areas of the building. It just felt oppressive is the right word for it. When I say it was oppressively hot, you almost feel like you can't breathe as well as you should be. You feel like the walls are closing in on you. That's what that room felt like, even though it wasn't like a particularly small room. Like the morgue was a quarter of the size of that. Not like the vault
at the hair salon.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So not a lot of explanation as to why that room would feel that way, other than maybe there's some lingering, energies down there. So after that, we went down into the tunnels, which is the area I was most excited to check out because tunnels. I mean, that's like a investigator's wet dream.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
And B, on Destination Fear, they captured a photo of what looked like a really tall shadow figure at the end. Well, sort of like a intersection or where the tunnel turned. And it was really cool because they took a whole bunch of photos and they're swiping through and there's nothing. And then there's all of a sudden there's thing.
One. Yep.
And it was really weird, really tall,
watch that.
really
I need to watch
creepy.
that episode.
You should. I think you can probably find it on YouTube if anything. But the thing is, while it was creepy down there, we maybe heard some interesting noises. I wouldn't say anything significant really happened.
Yeah.
There was also an area adjacent to the tunnels that housed a lot of machinery. It was basically like a boiler room, but huge. And there were a couple of different rooms, and we were given free reign to just kind of walk around, take pictures, but we didn't do any investigating there.
Did you even bring your recorder, your digital recorder?
I brought my phone, and I'll talk about that in a little bit.
Okay.
But I knew what the atmosphere was going to be like. I knew there was going to be a lot of noise contamination. Yeah. I knew that we wouldn't be free to just go off and do an EVP session. No. We were kind of at the mercy of what the hosts were doing.
But that was kind of like, again, with the Mansfield Reformatory, where they kind of just let us wander around. And when we saw that shadow person on the walkway outside the prison cell, it was just perfect timing because everybody else had left to go to the main building to get pizza when they ordered pizza for everybody. So there was nobody else up there. So it was just, if that wouldn't have happened, it would have just been nothing would have happened on because that's really the only thing that happened when we were there for the tours. We saw that shadow person.
And I suspect that when you're doing something like this, you're much more likely to get activity when there's just 2 or 3 of you rather than 20 of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're more vulnerable. Whatever is there is probably more likely to come and approach you when there's just a couple of you. We were not allowed to split off at any time or go anywhere without the group. So that was never an opportunity for us. So then we moved up to the 3rd floor. That's where the woman had to like leave because she was too hot. And the group split into 2 because there were 2 different hallways. And this was just sort of happened. I don't think this was the plan, but one group went down the right hallway and we stayed on the left hallway. Which was kind of like, it was good because we were in a smaller group, but we could still hear them.
Yeah.
So it was just sort of like not ideal. But this was an area where I just used my phone's voice memo recorder, which takes amazingly good quality audio. I'm like, why is anybody using digital
There are people
recorders?
that use their phones on investigations.
I would, because it would be so much clearer.
I wouldn't because it takes up too much space, and I already have.
I think the next time I investigate, though, I'm not going to be taking... If we ever do another investigation, I'm not going to have a recorder running for 5 hours. I really want to try doing more in the moment where you do a short 10-15 minute EVP session and listen back right away, because if you get responses, you can actually
go back and try to
more.
get it.
Yeah. I'm like, why have we never done that? That makes so much sense. And then you're not spending hours reviewing audio.
Yeah. And then you get one section where it's super active in this one room, but you're not there anymore.
Yeah. So you had no idea that you should have stayed there and continued the conversation. So there are techniques I would like to try that we just never did because it never occurred to us.
If we could get in someplace early, like I wouldn't be there late, obviously, but if we could get in someplace like local, I would totally be down with it.
And I'll talk about this later. I think this place could be an option, but it would cost us. We would be charged for it, and it's not cheap. Okay, so we did, and even Jim remembers this. So our group kind of just sat quietly and would occasionally ask questions, but down at the end of the hall, we were getting all kinds of noises, like pops, bangs, what sounded like movement. Mark went and sat in like what used to be a bathroom by himself just so he could kind of isolate and listen. He said there were some weird noises happening in there. I did not get anything on my recorder. I think you could hear some of the sounds, but there were no EVPs. Yeah. But they were in response to things we were saying, like, can you do that again? Or can you do that louder? Or could you come closer? And it would do it. And then when we were done and the other group was wrapping up, I walked down there just to see, maybe it's just the building making noises, and it was silent. There was nothing. Not a single noise happened the whole time I was standing down there. So to me, that's kind of significant. It's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
That we're all hearing a barrage of noises, and then there's absolutely nothing when you walk down there. So that was really that, and the room that was kind of the chapel. Those were the only areas that I was like, there might be something going on in here. I don't know if anyone had recorders or anything from the Zahn family.
We should have got in touch with them about this episode. I didn't even think of that.
Well, I reached out to Rhonda yesterday because, to be honest, I couldn't remember if I had Justin's name right, but I did. Okay. His name is Justin, and
Brittany's
that's
boyfriend.
What I thought. Yeah. And I said I was doing an episode, but I didn't ask her if they had even... I don't remember seeing any of them carrying recorders, though. I think they were kind of like me, where they just wanted to experience the place.
To see the place, yep.
Yeah, but I feel like someone would have said something that they got an EVP. On that same floor, they took us to an area where they had a bunch of old medical equipment stored, which was really cool to look at, but we didn't do any investigation in there, and we weren't allowed to take photos in there. I'm not exactly sure why. There were areas where we couldn't take any photos. No video was allowed anywhere at any time. And I think that was the owner's instructions. So the next area we went to was the 2nd floor. And it was the common living quarters for the nurses and other staff. So the nurses had another area where their rooms were, because they actually lived there. And that's the last place we visited. But this was like the common area that had a kitchen, a dining room, and a lounge with like a piano. There were tables and chairs, couches in there. And the hosts used a ghost box in there, that was kind of interesting to see it in action. I've never seen it before. And there was at one point where someone said, how many spirits are here? And it clearly said 3. A lot of times with the ghost box, it's sort of like, well, it's up to the interpretation of whoever's listening. Yeah. And like an EVP, once you say what you think you hear, everybody's like, oh yeah, that's what I hear. But it said 3, and like 8 of us said 3 right away. Like we all heard the same thing. So that was interesting. Does it mean anything? I don't know.
Yeah, because I'm generally skeptical of Frank's box or the ghost box. Like I just don't.
I'm more impressed with the Ovulus. They didn't have an Ovulus. Bummer. They had a motion sensor music box there that was going off, but it went off so long that I felt it was a glitch. Like I didn't think something was standing there that long. It was to the point where he actually had to shut it off and turn it back on. And then like the guy, one of the hosts, kept seeing something moving in the kitchen. Nobody else saw it. Him and the other girl who were hosting us kept seeing movement down the hall. I don't think anyone else saw it. So it's like things like that where it's like, are you really seeing something? Because nobody else is seeing this. And how are you the only people seeing it? So I take everything with a grain of salt. You know, are they just saying that to make our experience more exciting? Yeah. Although they were very open and honest at the beginning. They're like, nothing might happen tonight. Or we might have crazy activity, or you might not have anything happen tonight. And that really is how it works.
That's how all investigations
are. It's not on demand.
Basically, yeah.
It just, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't.
Yep.
I remember this was at like 1:30 in the morning, and we were all just like exhausted and hot, and our feet hurt, and we were in kind of a cramped space. And I remember just like, oh, can we just move on to the next area? And then the last place we visited then was the nurses' living quarters, which that was, I think, off of like I keep saying the first floor, but the first floor is actually like a bunch of steps up. And then it was just another short staircase up into the nurses' quarters. Rumor has it that something like 7 nurses committed suicide while working there. They talked about it on Destination Fear 2, and I think they mentioned it here. I have found absolutely nothing to substantiate that.
What's hard? I mean, you know, there's.
I
feel bad that I keep interrupting you with this,
no,
but I'm thinking. But like, I remember the night that I wasn't at JFK Prep when we investigated there, because I think we investigated the night before, and I didn't go back the second night because I was tired.
Yeah.
But they were up in the. That's classic Kurt. They were up on like the 3rd floor of the school, and you know they're up there with Jerry, the owner at the time, and all of a sudden there's a flashlight in the hallway, and they're like, oh, and it was a cop. And he's like, he thought people were breaking in. So he came by, and they were talking to the cop, and they told the cop that they heard the story that a student hung themselves there. And the cop said, well, I can look that up back when I get back to the precinct.
Yeah.
And he got back in touch with them and said, yeah, that did happen. So it was only by like a random chance that we ran into the cop there, and that he was able to look that up. So it's hard to tell. I don't think there's a way that you can really look that up unless you go back through tons of old newspaper clippings. Right. But I wonder if like a police officer could verify that nurses killed themselves there. Maybe.
I mean, I feel like that's an interesting thing to throw out there, and it's kind of shocking when people hear it, but it's
not
also
surprising.
Like,
I'm sure that they went through some real hell out there. I couldn't imagine that.
This is a place where, I mean, it was a nursing home. It was a drug and alcohol rehabilitation
But still,
center.
You see a lot of
I get it, but I still have never found anything to suggest that this place was like, not on the up and up.
But even if it's not on the up and up, you're dealing with a lot of sadness and seeing these people like this.
But
and
for 7 nurses to commit suicide,
I think 7 might be a little high, but I could see 1 I could totally see 1, 2, or 3.
But again, I could not find anything about it. One website mentioned it and called it a rumor.
Okay.
So I'm like, I feel like I found articles about the place. I couldn't find anything that talked about it. So I'm just calling that an urban legend for now. If anybody else knows about that, I should actually. So Jeff, who from Old School Media, his grandma worked there.
Oh, really?
That's where that picture came from.
Oh, cool.
So when she passed away, they were cleaning her house, and
that's where we got that picture.
And Kate said, "I need to give this to Kurt and Krista." So obviously she can't answer any questions now, but I should ask Jeff if he had ever heard. That nurses had
maybe reach out to him, and then
there.
we can just bring that up in the next episode.
Yeah. Let's see. All in all, it was fun. It definitely got me itching to do a real investigation, especially at a location like that. I've never investigated a place like that. Like I missed out on JFK Prep.
I know. I still hate that you missed out on JFK Prep.
Oh man, it gets me. Every other place we investigated was like a small business or a house.
Yeah.
So I never got to do like the holy grail place of like the abandoned huge complex with tunnels and whatever. And not to talk negatively about the group, but these tours are not true investigations if you think about it. They're more for it just gives you a peek into what an investigation would be like.
Yeah. But for some people, that's enough. Some people just want to get that glimpse of what it's like when they see, like, to investigate a place.
Yeah, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it. I would just say if anyone were planning on doing it, if you live in the area, it's $70 a person, so it's not cheap. And just know going into it that you're going to be with a bigger group and that you don't get an opportunity to do anything on your own, really.
No. But that being said, it's awesome that the owner lets people do this because he totally does not have to let people do this.
Yeah. I mean, otherwise, he's just sitting on a vacant property eating the mortgage. Yeah. So he's probably making a decent amount of money off of this because they're booked every weekend, like Friday through Sunday, probably. I would love to go back again when it's not so hot too, because that was almost distracting. Yep. Like we were uncomfortably hot and it was humid. It wasn't just that it was hot, it was humid and there's no breeze. You're inside.
I'd maybe go there from 8 a.m. till noon.
So you can actually reserve the building for a private investigation.
Ooh.
It's something like $300, but I think you can have like 10 to 15 people or something. I don't recall what they have like a maximum number of people that you can have. It would be cool
if we ever did have a little get together with strangers.
Or our paranormal group.
Yeah. Go
Heartland
there and do
Paranormal, get HPI back together. I would love to do a true official investigation with our investigation group. And I think if we split that cost between all of us, we could go any time of the day that we wanted. We didn't have to go late at night.
Yeah.
A building doesn't stop being haunted during the day. And when you get to some of those, interior areas where there's not it's dark anyway. So I think it would be totally worth it to
do that,
to rent the place out for our
But
group.
It would be neat if like Dash could ever be here.
Oh, yeah.
There's quite a few local, there's a lot of local listeners, Coleman.
Or people from Illinois.
Coleman. Yeah. So it would be kind of neat.
It'd be fun if we were going to do a tour. I mean, we could do it as a tour too.
Yeah.
And just make sure we all get reserved the same night and time slot. But yeah, so that was it. Just, did I skip over anything?
Yeah, I feel bad that I didn't go, but I just can't. I mean, I'm in bed at like 7:30 now. But what's funny is that Rhonda was telling me all about the night, but it was at 2:30 in the morning when she was on her way home from it, and I was just waking up. So she's texting me, telling me all about how the investigation went. She said it was so hot.
Well, and the funny thing is I just have like this biological clock where I'm awake at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Oh, yeah. It does not matter what time I went to bed. No, and
it's neat that you and I can always text each other at 4 in the morning and we know that we're going to be up.
Well, and so that was my problem though. We got home, we were home by 2:30. It probably took me, maybe I fell asleep at 3, but I was up by 8. So I got 3 hours of
There's
sleep.
days that somebody messages me at like 4:30 and I forget my phone on Do Not Disturb. So I don't answer back for like 45 minutes and then they're worried that I died or something.
So I was just looking in the book here. They were talking about their investigation. They had a lot of activity apparently. Like they heard screams, they heard banging. I think someone got punched and scratched. Like, this is some extreme stuff that I'm kind of like, okay, again, grain of salt. If I'm not there to witness it myself, I don't know. But they claim to have gotten a lot of really aggressive activity. We, of course, didn't see any of that night, which I'm fine with. I don't need to be punched and scratched. No. But I felt that the place was fairly tame.
Yeah, we've never really had violent activity. We had the worst we ever had was that night at Vicky's in the back room where you and I just felt so uncomfortable back there. We just skedaddled out of that back room.
And the thing breathing in my ear was not pleasant.
No.
I wouldn't say that was violent. It seemed aggressive though.
Yeah, that's true.
But
cool.
Yeah. So the Sheboygan County Comprehensive Healthcare Center, not the asylum as everyone
asylum
likes
just
to
sounds
call
scarier.
It totally sounds scarier.
Yeah. Cool. Very good.
I mean, technically, it was an asylum. It just wasn't the Sheboygan County Asylum. That was a totally different building in Sheboygan, the city of Sheboygan. So
cool. Very good. That was interesting.
Thanks.
My story is about the Chase family vault. Krista just looks at me like I have no idea.
Blank stare. Maybe I'm...
Well, the thing is that when I was very young, I want to say late 70s, like 9, 10, I got this book about creepy things, like a book about haunted places.
Yeah.
And this was in there. So this is one of the things that was a foundation.
Ooh, of what got you into it?
Yes, along with my experiences with the green guy in my bedroom when I was a kid. But this, I remember this book. It had the picture of it talked about the Chase family vault. It talked about, it has that picture where these two guys supposedly were washed off their ship, and then you can like see their faces supposedly in the window when somebody took a picture of the window.
I've not heard anything about this.
And I want to find this book because this book was one of the seeds for my whole interest in the paranormal.
Do you remember what it was called?
No. Ghost Faces. I'm going to see if I can find that picture just to show you. Ghost Faces on ship window. It's like not the best picture, but
well, it's from the 70s, right? So that doesn't surprise me.
But I don't remember what this book was called. But right here. And people said those were a dead ringer of two crewmen who died.
I can see it.
Yeah, but that picture was in that book. I remember this book clear as day. I don't remember the name of it. But they talked about the Chase family vault in there, and I was always fascinated with this. So I went into this like, yeah, and then when I was done, it's like, oh. So it might be one of those.
It might be the Paulding Light episode.
It might be the Paulding Light episode, but this, or the one with the Solway Firth spaceman, that where it looks like the alien behind the girl in the picture, and it turns out it's actually just her mom.
Totally.
So,
side note on the Paulding Light, I found I don't know where I saw people talking about it, but I think maybe on the Fortean, what is it called?
Singular Times. Yeah, Singular Fortean Times.
On their Facebook page, somebody must have posted something about the Paulding Light. I think that's where I saw it. And it's incredible how defensive people are about that.
Yeah.
Because so many people say, I'm pretty sure that was debunked. And people are like hardcore, like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
They didn't debunk it. Like, I think there are just some things people want to believe in so bad.
Yeah, that they
that
just
they're
don't
not willing
listen
to accept.
Yeah, no, totally. Because especially if you're in that area, because
Or
that's
they've
kind of
seen
like
it
local
themselves.
lore.
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
I get, but you still have to accept rational explanations.
Yeah, but some people don't.
I know.
All right. Barbados. Barbados looks so nice. I don't know.
It's like tropical, right?
Barbados is an island country.
That's where Rihanna's from.
Is it? Barbados is an island country in the Caribbean, however you say it.
Caribbean.
I say Caribbean region. It is 21 miles in length and up to 14 miles wide, covering an area of 167 square miles, and it is the easternmost Caribbean island. It sounds pretty dang nice. Like looking at pictures of it, it looks like a tropical paradise.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like take your honeymoon there.
Yes. And on the island is the Christ Parish Church Cemetery, which contains a legendary burial tomb known as the Chase Family Vault. Most of what I'm talking about in this little mini-sode comes from a July 24th, 2014 article on Mysterious Universe called, quote, The Mysterious Moving Coffins of Barbados, and a September 16th, 2016 article on thelineup.com called, quote, The Mysterious Moving Coffins of the Chase Family Vault. The vault was originally built in 1724 for a man named James Elliot, but he ended up never using it for some reason. And I don't get that. Like, why did you build this vault and then not use it? And the vault isn't as big as I expected it to be. Like, when I was a kid reading about this, in my head it was bigger, but it's 12 feet by 6.5 feet. So it is not big. I'm guessing 6.5 feet is how tall it is, and 12 feet is how big it is.
You don't think it's like 12 by 6?
I'm thinking like 6.5.
Usually when people give
12.
like room dimensions, they're not talking about height.
Oh, but then it's like super
narrow. But it's a coffin. It's for a coffin, right?
But there's a lot of coffins in there. So,
really?
Yeah. And it's made out of coral and concrete. It's half in the ground, so there are stairs you descend to a huge marble door that requires 6 or 7 men to move. The remains of one woman named Thomasina Goddard had been interred there in 1807, but she was the only one. And she was just placed in there in like a cheap wooden coffin. Okay. And she was the only one in there for the longest time.
Is she related to this guy?
No. I don't think so. In 1808, the vault was purchased by the Chase family, one of the wealthier families on Barbados. The Chase family wasn't particularly well liked on the island because they were said to be absolutely brutal to their slaves, and they were just eccentric and weird. I gotta get a cough drop.
Okay. Kurt's getting a cough drop and he's sneezing. I just stole a sneeze.
You totally just stole the sneeze.
Stole it.
You totally just stole the sneeze. I was going to.
Jim hates it when I do that. Because then your nose burns and you never get the satisfaction.
It's going to come in like the next 5 minutes anyway. You never heard of the Chase family vault?
You know what? Now that
It sounds familiar.
did Josh Gates cover this at some
He
point?
possibly did.
Because now I kind of feel like I know where it's going, but we'll see. Maybe it's not.
No, this cough drop might be super annoying, so I'm going to try not to click it on my teeth while I'm talking.
Okay.
But yeah,
Thank you in advance.
they were said to be horrible to their slaves. Like, they were not well liked. But eccentric and weird. I don't really, they were rich.
I mean, whatever. It's
Yeah.
the being cruel to their slaves or having slaves.
Yes. And then in 1808, the infant daughter of the Chase family, Mary Ann Maria Chase, died and was interred in the vault in a heavy lead casket. 4 years later, another Chase daughter named Dorcas. Dorcas is such a weird name.
Talk about cruel.
Dorcas. Yeah. Don't name. Could you imagine naming your son Dorcas? Oh, yeah, that's horrible. 4 years later, another Chase daughter named Dorcas died. Rumors say that her father's constant abuse caused her to commit suicide by starvation. Ugh. Yeah.
He sounds like a real stand-up guy.
Yeah. So the vault was opened and her lead coffin was put in along with Mary Ann. So now there's the two.
Lead?
Yeah.
It was a lead coffin. Okay.
So now there's two coffins. 3 coffins. There's the old wooden coffin from
Yep.
Thomasina Goddard and the 2 daughters from the Chase family.
Okay.
Then, just 1 month later, the father, Thomas Chase, died, reportedly from suicide. His body was placed in a very heavy coffin, said to weigh 250 pounds and needing 8 people to carry it when the body was inside. That's a heavy coffin. When the huge marble slab was moved to place his coffin inside the vault, it was discovered that Dorcas's coffin was now standing upside down against one of the walls, and baby Mary Ann's coffin was pushed tight against one of the other walls.
Oh, I think I remember what the
People were
explanation
puzzled
is.
because the marble slab didn't appear to have been moved. These coffins were super heavy and nothing appeared to have been taken. They figured that it was vandals or relatives of the slaves that had been treated so badly by the Chases. They moved the coffins back into place and sealed the door better when they left. In 1816, 11-year-old Charles Brewster Ames died and was going to be placed in the vault. When the door was unsealed to bring his coffin in, they found all the coffins inside the vault, including the super heavy Thomas Chase coffin, quote, scattered about like toys. The coffins were once again moved into place and the door resealed. So that's kind of weird. Every time they go in there, the coffins are moved.
Except that I think I remember what the explanation is.
Except the one coffin that's not moved is the cheap wooden one.
Oh, then my
But we're
thought
going to get into
okay.
we get into theories, but
Okay.
that one was never moved.
That's odd.
The cheap wooden one. According to the article on MysteriousUniverse.com, quote, the story began to take hold among the superstitious local populace. Whispers circulated of black magic and ghosts, and it was said that the tomb was haunted, cursed, or both. There were many stories around this time that have the feeling of creepy campfire tales. One such story goes that a woman on horseback heard menacing shrieks and groans emanating from the tomb as she went past it. Her horse allegedly went into berserk panic mode, foaming at the mouth and threatening to throw the woman off. It was then reported that several other horses in the nearby village became insane in the ensuing days and mindlessly dove into the bay where they drowned.
Aw,
I know.
the horses weren't okay.
The horses were not okay, supposedly.
This is all from the Mysterious Universe website?
Yes.
Okay.
So the vault was opened in 1816 for Samuel Brewster to be put in, and in 1819 for a Thomasina Clark to be put in.
Wasn't the first lady a Thomasina too?
Thomasina must have been a popular name.
Better than
And
Dorcas.
both times the vaults were opened, the coffins inside were scattered everywhere, except the coffin of the original person in the tomb, Thomasina Goddard, whose frail, rickety wooden casket always stayed exactly where it was placed and was always somehow undamaged by the coffins moving around it. The governor of Barbados, who was on hand to witness all of this as the tomb door was opened, ordered an investigation to take place. The governor's wife later wrote, quote, in my husband's presence, every part of the floor was sounded to ascertain that no subterranean passage or entrance was hidden. It was found to be perfectly firm and solid. No crack was even apparent. The walls, when examined, proved to be perfectly secure.
So how long was it between visits that they would notice?
Like
years? Okay.
Yeah. No fracture was visible, and the sides, together with the roof and flooring, presented a structure so solid it was as if it was formed by entire slabs of stone. So she said they looked everywhere, and there's nothing, no cracks, there's nothing. The coffins were put back into place, and this time the governor sealed the door with mortar and put an imprint of his ring in it so that they would know if it was broken and remortared. And on the inside of the vault, the floor was covered with fine white sand, so any footprints or shenanigans would be easily seen.
Okay. Shenanigans.
8 months later, the governor was way too curious to wait any longer, so he and a party of men went to the vault. When they got there, they saw that the mortar had not been broken and that the mark of his ring was still 100% intact. The mortar was then broken, and the men went to move the huge marble slab, but realized that there was something wrong because they seemed unable to move it. More men were brought in to move it, and they finally realized the reason that they were having problems opening it was because Thomas Chase's heavy coffin had been propped up against the door. When they finally got inside, they saw that the coffins were once again scattered. But this time it appeared to be much more violently, with some of the coffins on top of each other, and baby Mary Ann's coffin had been smashed so hard into a wall that a chunk was missing from the corner of her coffin. There were no footprints in the sand, and the sand was completely dry, so there appeared to be no trace of flooding of any kind. If it had been vandals, it would have been impossible to get out and reclose a marble slab with Thomas Chase's coffin being propped against it on the inside, which totally makes sense. Like, they couldn't do that. Nathan Lucas, a member of the Barbados House of Assembly, wrote, quote, I examined the walls, the arch, and every part of the vault, and found every part old and similar. And a mason in my presence struck every part of the bottom with his hammer, and all was solid. I confess myself at a loss to account for the movements of these lead coffins. Thieves certainly had no hand in it, and as for any practical wit or hoax, too many were requisite to be trusted with the secret for it to remain unknown. And as for the slave Negroes having anything to do with it, their superstitious fear of the dead and everything belonging to them precludes any idea of the kind. All I know is that it happened and that I was an eyewitness to the fact. So the governor finally said the hell with this, and they took the coffins out and buried them in individual graves in the Christchurch Parish Cemetery, and the vault remains empty and unused to this day. And it's still there. It's just nothing's in it, but you can go there and see the vault. Oh,
really?
Yep. It's all like overgrown and stuff, and looks trashy, but it's still there. So there's a couple theories about this, going from least likely to most likely.
Okay.
Theory number 1, vandals, and that's super doubtful. Some of these coffins would take 6 to 8 men to move it, plus the marble slab door is so heavy. So why would they do that? Why would they go in there, do this, and then leave and not take anything?
And it seems like this is spanning a long, a lot of years.
Yeah. Like it would
did
they
be
pass
like
it on to
multiple,
their kids?
right?
Like multiple generations.
Generational vandalism.
Plus, there were no footprints in the sand, but I don't see this. You can flatten it out with a rake or something like that after you do it. But the clincher in this seems to be that the governor used his ring and sealed the door with his ring imprint, and it was the same.
Right.
So, vandals,
It seems like a lot of work if it were vandals.
Yeah,
Why?
for nothing. For LOL.
Right.
So vandals, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either.
Theory number 2, earthquakes. I mean, I guess.
I think there'd be damage to the structure.
There would be damage to the structure, and there weren't any major earthquakes reported during that entire time period. And the clincher here is that Thomasina Goddard's old wooden coffin never moved. The super heavy lead ones moved all over the place, up tipped against the wall. But her rickety old coffin never moved. Theory number 3, spirits or poltergeist activity. And if you believe in the paranormal, this might be the most likely explanation for you. I mean,
I believe in the paranormal. It's not the most likely explanation for me, though. I'm hoping you're getting to my explanation.
You're not buying the spirits or paranormal? I don't know.
I don't know.
But there was like a lot of trouble in the family, and like the daughter hated the dad because of abuse.
He was abusive.
So I mean, I could see that, but then why? Why was Thomasina's rickety old coffin never hit or moved when this stuff was getting thrown around the vault?
And I'm not someone who believes that cemeteries are haunted. I don't believe vaults are haunted.
No, because
or
I believe you haunt where you die.
You're not attached to your body. You're attached to where you spent your life.
Yeah, or where you spent your life, or where you die violently.
Right.
Theory number 4, and I got a funny feeling this is the one Krista is looking for, floods.
Yes.
This is the most common theory, but it kind of also doesn't make a lot of sense. The coffins were super heavy.
Yeah, but water is incredibly powerful.
Yeah, and they were supposedly airtight, so could they float like a boat does?
Right.
So it's
the
possible.
The wooden coffin not moving, though, being the lightest and most buoyant because it's made of wood.
Yep. According to a January 28th, 2014 article on Skeptoid.com called, quote, The Moving Coffins of Barbados, it says, one of the natural explanations that have been repeatedly suggested is water. If water got into the vault, it could have floated the coffins into virtually any position. This raises a number of questions. Are the coffins buoyant? Could water have gotten into the vault and drained out unnoticed? Where would the water have come from?
Well, it's the Caribbean. It's surrounded by water.
There's lots of water. We can estimate the buoyancy of the lead-lined coffins. They would have floated only if their weight was less than the equivalent volume of water. We don't have the dimensions of any of the coffins, but we can kind of guess. A coffin is a six-sided affair, kind of like the kind Dracula would sit up in, as opposed to a casket, which is just a rectangular box. Coffins are more compact, thus with less volume, thus are less likely to float than a casket. I looked up the dimensions of all kinds of coffins. There is clearly no such thing as a standard size, and the volumes I calculated range from 400 to 900 liters in volume. This means that they displace 400 to 900 kilograms of water. Some of today's mortuary guidelines suggest that the average casket weighs about 150 kilograms, about 25 kilograms for each of 6 pallbearers. Thomas's coffin is said to have required 8 men to move, and if we assume they were straining twice as hard as the average pallbearer, they were lifting only 400 kilograms. So although these numbers are all best guess estimates, Thomas's coffin was at least neutrally buoyant, and more than likely it possibly floated like a cork, which I could totally get. You know. The Chase Vault is located at an elevation of about 33 meters on coral reef limestone, which is highly porous and has a fast percolation rate.
Percolation rate,
yes.
Meaning water.
Percolation rate, like water will seep in and then leave quickly. Yep, okay. Like a sponge kind of.
Which to me, when you said the sand was dry, so it must not have been flooded, to me that was not a logical thought process.
No.
Sand dries quickly.
Oh yeah,
I think.
how would they know that this? I mean, if it's 10
Right.
years, the sand is totally going to dry.
Be wet.
Yeah, I said percolation. It's percolation.
Percolation.
This means that if the vault were to become inundated with water somehow, it would easily drain out through the ground. Even Sir Schomburgk, a surveyor and geographer by trade, noted this characteristic in his 1848 book. Barbados gets a lot of rain. It rains half the days of the year and averages around 100 millimeters per month. I did not find any studies looking into the question of whether the Chase Vault happens to collect much rainwater, but in my view, this is very much a possibility. More than enough water is there, more than enough drainage capacity exists in the vault, and more than enough buoyancy is in those coffins. So basically they said that's what happened.
Yeah.
Is it flooded and these coffins... But some of that doesn't make sense to me, because why was that one thrown against the wall so violently that it broke? That makes no sense. If it's in there just floating on water, it's not going to pound the edge of the wall.
But do you think one of the lead ones just repeatedly bumping into it?
No, because not unless it was like a vicious tidal wave in there, it would, I don't get that.
I don't know.
The sand was dry, but that's not much. But there was no sign of water damage on the walls. And you think if there would be water in there, that there would have been some trace of a water line on the walls.
Not if it filled all the way up, though.
And then why was Thomasina's coffin casket?
That's
cheap
the part
wooden
that
casket
bugs
should have
me.
been the one that was busted.
Right.
It shouldn't have been a lead line.
It should
coffin.
have been waterlogged.
It should have been
rotted.
waterlogged, rotted, and it should have been busted, not the lead line one.
That's the clincher for me that I can't fully settle on the flooding.
Yeah.
But it is the most logical explanation.
It is. Assuming number 5 isn't true, and number 5 is it never happened. The Skeptoid article says, quote, modern researchers have also had a crack at this tale, most notably the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry's full-time researcher, Joe Nickel. Recall the frequent advice that we so often say here on Skeptoid. Before trying to explain an unusual event, first make sure that the unusual event actually happened. Nickel was unconvinced by the documentary evidence. He didn't dispute the deaths and their dates, just the entire story of the vault. These Chase family members did die. Mm-hmm. So that's
the
found.
Vault exists.
That's found. The vault exists, but whether or not they were in the vault is actually kind of hard to find. Nickel found a different explanation for the story from the world of Freemasonry, which he laid out in Fate magazine in 1982. Nickel claimed that the language used in the oldest accounts to describe the strange tale was laden with Masonic symbology. So he's talking about Freemasons. Mm-hmm. He argued that the entire case was not an account of literal events alleged to have actually taken place, but rather that it was a symbolic allegory compiled from Masonic symbols, such as the sound of a hammer used to certify the solidity of the vault's walls, the arch ceiling representing the Royal Arch degree of Freemasonry, and the whole idea of a secret vault is central to Freemasonry. And of course, the men who sealed the door with cement were referred to as Masons.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of symbology of Freemasons and Freemasonry. Just in the story of that happening. So that's one of the possibilities, is that it's almost like not like an inside joke, but it's like a story told by Freemasons.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I get that. I totally can understand that, because the whole thing with the Masons, with the heavy stone, with the ring in there, there's just a lot of weird stuff that ties in with Freemasonry. And we're going to have to do an episode on Freemasons at some point, because that's like a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one possibility, is that it's just a story that was put out by Freemasons, like an allegory. And another possibility is that it just never happened.
Right.
The article goes on to say, the story looks pretty solid. The vault is there. The death records are there. The only thing that's missing is any evidence that anyone was placed in the vault ever. So where does the story come from? There was a paragraph or two outlining the same events I've just given in Captain James Alexander's 1833 book called Transatlantic Sketches. Not Transatlantic History Ramblings with Lauren and Brian, but Transatlantic Sketches. But in the book, he gave no source. It wasn't until 1907 that a very thorough researcher by the name of Andrew Lang gave a talk that was published in Folklore, a quarterly review on myth, tradition, institution, and custom. Lang and his correspondents uncovered not only Alexander's book, but also accounts from the day, such as burial records in the Book of Christ Church that confirmed the deaths, but also original accounts of the disrupted coffins, such as those said to have been given by the governor himself in his 1868 memoirs and letters of Lord Combermere. Unfortunately, there does not seem to be any surviving copies of this book, and Lang was unable to find any copies of this book. Lang also uncovered several secondhand tellings of this tale, all which trace back to a man identified as the rector of the Christ Church Parish Church. From an October 13th, 2012 article on the website skepticophilia.com, it says, quote, now, of course, the first question for a skeptic is, what is the quality of the evidence? The fact is, not very high. The originator of this tale seems to be the Reverend Thomas Orderson, rector of the Christ Church, who claimed to have been there at the various openings of the vault. The problem is, the sources at the time, based on Orderson's recollections, all vary in their details. The one I presented above is the one that has appeared in most recent publications. But in the earliest versions, such as the one appearing in James Edward Alexander's Transatlantic Sketches in 1833 and other recountings of the story that were published in 1844 and in 1860, the details disagree with each other considerably. So it's changing all the time here. Add that to the fact that folklorist Andrew Lang went to Barbados and combed through the registers of Christ Church Parish for anything that could substantiate any of the information found in this story. He found absolutely nothing. Not even the newspapers at the time, which certainly would have published such a sensational story, had a hint of the wild goings-on in the Chase Vault. Much has been said about the possible causes of the, quote, restless coffins. Seepage of water into the vaults, earthquakes, and even more outlandish answers of vengeful ghosts, voodoo, or evil curses. But in order even to have a need for an explanation, we have to establish first that there is something to explain. And in the case of the moving Barbados coffins, it seems likely that the whole thing was spun from whole cloth, probably by Reverend Orderson himself. So there you go.
Okay, that's the most likely
That's
scenario.
the most likely scenario is that, and it sucks because this has been one that has been in my head since I was a kid.
That's
and
funny.
It sounds like it really
It's a
kind
total
of
hoax.
But you never know. I mean, maybe it did happen,
Maybe
but the
there's
fact
a seed of truth in
but
there
the fact
somewhere.
that none of the newspapers
that is
there
odd.
had stories about these moving coffins.
Yeah, that would have totally been something they would have reported.
Oh yeah,
on,
because
too.
it would have sold, like the paper would have been like
Yeah.
nuts. And
Very
there's
sensational.
nothing in those papers from that time about the moving coffins. So there you go.
Wah, wah.
That is a wah-wah. A story that I believed and was fascinated by my whole life appears to be nothing but bunk.
Bummer.
That is a bummer, but that is the Chase family vault. It's a super interesting story.
It is.
Like, I love the idea that they go in and these coffins are always moved, and the one that should be moved mysteriously isn't.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
The only explanation that makes sense is that it never
The only explanation that makes
happened.
sense is that it never happened. And if it
Dang.
did, water flooding into the vault
It's
is the most likely, even
Yeah.
though there are some things with that make no sense.
It's flawed, but
It's flawed, but if it is happening, I hate to say it, but I think there's nothing paranormal about that.
No, agreed.
So there you go. Chase family
Interesting
vault.
nonetheless.
Interesting nonetheless, but, I hate to be the debunker, but in this case,
Hate to poo-poo on it.
I think I have to poo-poo hard on this one.
Yeah, agreed.
So there you go.
I'm with you.
There you go. I knew we had to tackle it at some point, and I kind of didn't want to because I knew it was going to be a wah-wah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we need a sad trombone sound for when we do these ones that we just kind of debunk.
Well,
So there you go. Now what? What time are we at?
An hour and 33 minutes, so we're in good shape. I need to Google my song because I don't know what it's called.
Do you want me to go first with my song?
Yeah. I think I know the name of the band.
As I'm chewing my cough
least.
drop. For this one, I kind of forgot about it until the other day, and finally I just texted Krista, and I'm like, let's just do a song that's stuck in your head.
Mm-hmm.
Because this song has been stuck in my head, and I love this song, and I've talked about this on here countless times in the past, but if I had to pick my all-time favorite video game, it would probably be Life is Strange. The very first Life is Strange game, and its prequel called Life is Strange Before the Storm.
Okay.
You remember me talking about...
I've never played this game. Is it
Oh my
a
God.
PlayStation 3? Okay.
You could play it on your phone. It's a phone. You can go on your phone.
Oh.
It's basically like one of those games where there's no like gaming in it. Like you're walking in the main game. You're a teenage girl named Max.
Okay.
And you're like walking her around kind of like in a Silent Hill game, but you're talking to people and there's a mystery about where this girl went that disappeared. She comes back to town after being gone from town since she was a kid and lost touch with her best friend from town.
Okay.
And there's no zombies. I mean, it's a town. You're in a high school. You walk down the high school hallway and you're talking to people. But this game is flat out amazing. If I could live in a video game, it would be in this game because the game is just beautiful.
So, I'm sorry, did you say you could get it for PlayStation 3?
Yes.
So I could find that. Okay.
And this is one of the best games ever.
Okay.
Life is Strange 2, okay, not so good.
Okay.
But just within the last month, Life is Strange 3 came out, and I'm hearing that it is amazingly good.
So is that like PlayStation 5, though?
No, PlayStation 4.
Oh.
But this one, it's... Like I said, it's not a game. It's more like you're playing a character. It's more like a story-driven game.
Okay.
But basically in the first game...
Which is what I prefer. That's like The Last of Us is the same
in the
thing.
first game, Max, the teenage girl you're playing, has a power where she can rewind time to change something that happens.
Ooh, that's kind of cool.
And like I said in the earlier episodes, the end of the game, you have to make a devastating choice. Because during the course of the game, you have to choose what you do in certain situations.
Oh, interesting.
And I've said this in the past on here that there is a scene where you're at a school, because you're a high school student.
Okay.
And there's a girl that you come to really, really like, and she's up on the roof. She's going to kill herself jumping off the roof, and you're up there.
Okay.
And depending on what you say, she either moves closer to the ledge or goes away from the ledge. And that is one of the most heart-pounding moments I've ever had in a video game, is trying to talk her back from killing herself.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But it's a beautiful game, but these games are known for being like heart-wrenching. Like, you get done with the game and you just want to die. Yeah.
In it?
Yes, you get so. And my song is from the prequel to the first game called Before the Storm. And it's from a scene in the game where you're the main character. You're in the prequel. You're the character Chloe, and she's like kind of a co-main character in the first game.
Okay.
But Chloe and her BFF/girlfriend Rachel hop a train, and they're sitting in a train car, and she asks if she wants to listen to music with her, and she gives her like one half of her earbuds, and they listen to a song together with. And people said that a lot of times in these games, they'll do this where they have this scene where they play a song and you can choose when to end it. But a lot of people said they just let the scene go on and on and on because they love the scene and they love this song. So this song is from that scene, and it's just been stuck in my head the last couple weeks. I just love this song. Never heard of this band before. But it is from the band Lanterns on the Lake, and the song is called Through the Cellar Door.
Okay.
And I can post the actual little clip where they're sitting in the train car
like the
and they're
title of the
listening to this song. And I love this song. It's been constantly in my head at school. I've been singing it. Some students hear me singing to myself. But like I said, Life is Strange, the video game, just amazing, but heart-wrenching. And it will stay with you for like ever. But it is a song, Through the Cellar Door, by the band Lanterns on the Lake.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't have quite the backstory for mine.
Okay.
I actually couldn't find the song I have been thinking of, so I picked another one. Do you remember the song Somebody That I Used to Know? It was
Yeah.
that dude.
Goatsy or whatever. the name
Gaiuti,
of, yeah.
right?
Like I love that song.
Yeah, it's a great song. The woman who sings with him is named her. It's
Yes,
Kimbra.
and I have a crush on her.
Oh,
like,
do you? She's really pretty.
Yeah, there's one video. Did you ever see like the 1980s remix of Somebody I Used to Know?
No.
It is so good.
Okay,
like
I'll
somebody
have to
made
check
it's called like 1988 version of the song.
Okay.
I'll play it for you after we're done with recording this, but it is so good that I actually like that better than the
original.
Yeah.
Well, I liked her from that
Yep.
song. I thought it was really cool.
Yep.
So I remember when that song came out, I looked her up and I found this song and video of hers that I just love. I have the whole album downloaded.
I probably listen to this because I went down her rabbit hole
The rabbit
for a while
hole
because
you went down her rabbit hole, didn't
Shush.
you?
I have students listening to
Oh,
this.
shoot.
I really like her, and it's the part in the song where she yells. But I was like, oof, I like this girl.
She has a really cool voice.
But there's a video, like I think it's a live version where she's wearing this dress and stuff, and she's just so freaking pretty in that. I
she's
just adore her.
gorgeous.
So I went down her rabbit hole, and I probably listened to this song.
Well, the song is called "Settle Down."
Yes, I'd listen to
It's
this.
really
one.
good.
Yeah.
It's like she's basically talking about how she wants to like build a life with this guy.
Yeah.
But it's really cool. The instrumentation is really cool. It's kind of bassy. It's got a cool. It's her vocals are really interesting. Like she's definitely quirky when it comes to like her style of singing.
Oh yeah, she's very quirky.
It's almost like I mean, she has like a jazz quality to the way
Yeah.
that she sings. That's probably not like mainstream.
Yeah.
So she never really went mainstream. But I really think her music is interesting.
And it's neat
so.
'cause in that live video, she's doing these things with her hands
Yeah.
when she's singing, and
Yeah,
she's just like
totally.
so. She's very eccentric.
Yes.
But I really like her for some
But
reason.
so
I just
talented.
do.
Yeah. So it's Kimbra.
Yep.
And the
Cool.
song is Settle Down.
Cool.
And that will get stuck in your head for sure.
Yeah. That's awesome because I did go down the Kimbra rabbit
Well, and
hole
I
because
just
I was really impressed with
stumbled
her.
upon her again recently, so I have been listening to her lately. That's why I used it. So,
Cool. So we will post those in the group.
Yeah, let's do some jokes.
Oh, we got listener question.
Oh, yeah. I'll look up I do a joke while you look up a question. Stupid. Why are pickles worry about lending money?
Why?
They're tired of people putting the bite on them. So stupid. How do you say pickle in French? Pickle in French.
So
Who
stupid.
wrote these jokes? I guess you can only make so many jokes about pickles. And they
I don't even remember if we did. Did we do what's your favorite flavor cake? I think we did.
Yes, we did.
Do you believe in
Mine was
reincarnation? And if so, who
chocolate.
do you think you were in a past life? Did we do that?
I feel like we've had that question before. Do you believe that you... I don't know. Well, now I feel bad. Do we answer it or not?
Let's just do these two.
Okay.
We'll go back to those maybe when we run out of questions,
Yeah.
just in case we didn't answer them, or maybe our answers
It
have
just
changed.
sounds familiar.
We'll do these two.
Okay.
This one is difficult.
Oh, great.
I know what movie I would most want to be, but this is what movie would you least want to be a secondary character in?
A secondary character? Probably like...
I know what mine's going to be.
It'd be like Texas Chainsaw
Yeah,
Man.
mine would
You know
be
what
like
I mean?
Scream or something like
Yeah,
that.
'cause
if
you know
a
you're
Yeah, if
dying.
you're a secondary main character.
Although in those movies, pretty much everyone dies. But yeah, if
Yeah.
you're a secondary character, you're definitely going down, and it's going to happen early on.
I went with Scream because in the Scream movies...
I don't want to be the chick running around in my underwear because you know she's going first.
Yeah. Yeah. Or the one having sex because you know she's going
definitely
first.
dying first.
Did you ever see the Rise of Leslie Vernon?
Mm-mm.
Oh. Okay. It's a really good movie.
Okay.
Like it's an older one, but it's basically that this guy is a serial killer, like a Jason kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this girl reporter is going with him to record him doing what he does.
Killing people?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So she's going with him.
Interesting.
And he's setting up this scene for her where how he's going to kill all these people. But the movie is like funny. Like he's complaining about, he's like, you have no idea
The
how much
hours are bad.
Yeah, you don't have no idea how much cardio you need for this because the girl is running, then all of a sudden you appear in front of her. And he's like,
oh, that is kind of funny.
But he's like setting up how he's going to kill all these kids in this house during this Halloween party.
Okay.
And there's this girl that you think that is going to be like the final girl because she's like the wholesome girl. And then during it, the reporter realizes the girl is actually like a huge slut.
Okay.
And
so
then,
she's going down
so the
first.
reporter, you realize, is supposed to be the final girl.
Oh.
So, but that's like they talk about that dinner. Like if you're smoking pot and having sex, you're
going
first
down
on my list.
Yes.
You know, but it's like a really good movie actually. So yeah, I went with Scream just because if you're a secondary character in one of those movies, you're toast.
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
It's a good chance though.
Yeah, but it's a good chance you're toast.
I'm going with any horror movie.
The movie that I can think of that I would most like to be a secondary character in would be Dazed and Confused, just because
Almost Famous.
Or Almost Famous because I love those eras.
Yes, totally. And the music and the atmosphere and all of it.
And the second question, what is the nerdiest thing you've ever done?
This podcast.
You think this is nerdy?
Totally.
You think doing a podcast is nerdy?
About the paranormal?
Yeah. I guess I never think of. I don't know. In my experience, people
To
are always
us,
like
this
super
is normal.
fascinated when people aren't like, you're a dork. People are like, this is cool.
Yeah, everybody does think it's cool, but they also kind of look at you funny. I don't know. I don't know.
I just never thought of this as being nerdy.
We sit in the dark and talk to things that aren't.
But I think that's
there.
cool. I think.
So do I. But we're
I
us.
think 30 years ago that would have been nerdy, but with Ghost Hunters and all the Zach Bagans and stuff, I feel like now it's kind of cool. So I never thought of this as nerdy.
I do, but I'm cool with it.
Okay.
Like I know I'm kind of
I'm
nerdy.
cool with my nerdiness. I completely embrace my nerdiness.
I'm also really into birds. Like I call myself a bird nerd. I now have a bird feeder that's attached to our window so that I can watch them at my window, like feeding and looking in my window.
I'm into literature. How nerdy is that?
Well,
that's
I'm into
nerdy.
Literature too, yeah.
My nerdiest things.
I think we're just nerds.
My first things that popped into my head, my nerdiest things, I went to 3 Star Trek conventions in my life.
It's pretty nerdy.
That is pretty nerdy.
Yeah.
I wasn't dressed as a Starfleet member or a Klingon, but I just went to them and it was cool.
Yeah.
You know,
I think it would be cool.
So that was probably my nerdiest thing was 3 Star Trek conventions.
The thing is, I think nerdy is also weird, and I think weird is so good.
Yeah, weird is okay.
Like I feel like people who are normal, there's something wrong with them.
Yeah, those are the serial killers.
Those are the serial
serial killers.
Quirky, nerdy, and weird are awesome qualities to have, and so these things don't seem weird or nerdy to us because they're normal for us.
Yeah. Good answer. Those were good questions.
So I'm a bird nerd and I have a paranormal podcast.
I'm a Star Trek nerd. Live long and prosper and all that.
Cool.
Good questions.
Yeah.
What time are we at?
Hour 45.
Let's wrap this up.
Wrap it up.
And now we got to do our side sessions.
Yeah. I texted him to make coffee, but he hasn't responded. I have a feeling there will be no coffee waiting for me. So I'm going to have to make it.
Rude.
WTF.
Well, I feel like I was going to bring something up at the end of this episode. Is there?
I can't think
of nothing either.
The deets?
The deets. Oh, I just shut it. Shoot.
You can get the address off of there.
Oh, I can open it.
Okay.
You can email us at thestrangesessions@gmail.com. We are on Twitter at Strange Session without the S.
Don't go there for any information. It hasn't been updated in months.
Krista does a really good job on Instagram, though.
That's all right.
The Strange Sessions. And you can send us postcards and snail mail to The Strange Sessions, P.O. Box 434, Manitowoc, Wisconsin, 54221-0434. I went there yesterday to see if anything was there, and I opened it up, and I was all excited, but it turned out it was just a festival ad for groceries.
Nice.
So, bummer there. That was another wah-wah. And you can call our lonely little phone line at 920-443-9602 if you want to tell us a story, if you just want to talk, if you want to get something off your chest.
Yeah.
It's like those old numbers from the 90s, like when you used to, remember on TV, you used to have the confession line.
Oh, sure. You could
876
also call
numbers.
and talk to celebrities.
Yeah, you could call and talk to.
I remember my best friend and I called the Corey line. It was
Ooh,
like
did you
Corey
get to talk to
Feldman
the
and
Corey-
Corey Haim. No, we just got a big bill.
Oh,
I think it was a recording, if I recall correctly, and my parents were pissed.
Yeah, I remember.
But hey, we wanted to talk to the Coreys.
And you didn't even get to talk to the
No,
Coreys.
it was
Rude.
bunk.
You can talk to my brother Corey when he's here.
Sweet. You
Just
probably won't even charge me for it.
We won't charge you for it. It'll be free. So I think that's it for this episode. I just don't know what the next episode is going to be. I got to talk to. We're going to have
So is Corey coming on the next
Not
episode?
Corey's coming on, I think, November 6th or 7th.
Because you gave me like the outline for.
Yeah.
We probably don't need to announce it though, right?
No, but we could say Corey's coming on because
Yeah.
Corey is coming on in the near future. Corey's
In November.
Yes, Corey is a very requested
He
guest
is.
co-host. He does such a bang-up job.
He does.
We're trying to figure out what we're going to do for that episode because we just did a mini mystery, but we might do another mini mystery or we might do a missing 411 spotlight.
I just need a heads up so that I have time to.
We'll let you know that morning
Okay. Right. I'll just grab a book off the shelf and
and just start
from
reading
that.
it. Yeah.
I
So-
do have like a lot of like sightings or ghosts or whatever.
We still have Coleman's book, your missing
I have a
411
ton of
book.
those books.
Yeah. He was
gave
in
me-
Manitowoc, and it
he
was
gave
so
me
cool that he
several.
was in Manitowoc, but I couldn't meet him because I was working that day. So I think that is it for this episode. We will be back in 2 weeks, unless you're one of our paying coffee members, in which case we will be back next weekend with an episode that I love, but that I kept
Yeah, he
getting
cried a lot.
teary.
He's a big
I kept
crybaby.
crying in this stupid episode. And I don't know if it's just because I'm overwhelmed with stuff going on right
Could
now
be.
or because I'm a big softie and it's like
It's
a
both.
really interesting love story. And I just really, really love this one. So the next side sessions episode I love, but be warned, I get a
Kurt
little
gets a love of
I get a little choked up a couple times. So I think that is it. So from Krista and I in the strange cellar, until next time. I totally forgot the name
Yeah,
of the
like
place.
you sound really certain
I
about
was going to
that.
say old school media studio, and I'm like, oh, but it's a
'Cause I
strange
mentioned
cellar.
it
It is,
earlier.
yeah, you did. So it's been in my head. So from Krista and I in the strange cellar. Until next time, stay strange.